There's an episode in season 1 of SpongeBob that Nickelodeon almost shouldn't have aired. It didn't just test SpongeBob and Patrick's friendship, it destroyed it over a single bubble. Watch this scene closely. They're not playing anymore. They're arguing with each other, with faces of real anger you've never seen before. And behind it all, Squidward pulling the strings like a scientist running an experiment. This is Naughty Nautical Neighbors, and what it reveals about friendship is darker and more human than you remember. Before we get into the chaos, let's talk about why SpongeBob and Patrick's friendship hit differently for so many of us growing up. For many of us, these two weren't just cartoon characters, they went beyond that. They represented that pure, uncomplicated friendship we all wanted. You know, the kind where you can do absolutely nothing together and still have the best time of your life? Think about it. SpongeBob is this optimistic, hardworking sponge who sees the good in everything. Patrick's Patrick. He lives under a rock, has maybe 2 brain cells on a good day, and his idea of a productive day is moving from one sitting position to another. But together, they're magic. Remember when SpongeBob took Patrick jellyfishing even though Patrick had no idea what he was doing? Or when they went to Glove World and turned a simple carnival trip into an unforgettable adventure? Then there's that Valentine's Day episode where SpongeBob went to crazy lengths just to make Patrick happy, even when Patrick was being completely unreasonable? That's real friendship right there. Their dynamic worked because it was genuine. SpongeBob brought energy and enthusiasm, while Patrick brought, moral support and the occasional terrible idea that somehow worked out. They balanced each other perfectly. SpongeBob needed someone to share his boundless joy with, and Patrick needed someone patient enough to deal with his special brand of cluelessness. But what happens when you take that away? What happens when you pit these two against each other? That's where Naughty Nautical Neighbors comes in, and trust me, it gets uncomfortable fast. So let's set the scene. Naughty Nautical Neighbors aired on August 7th, 1999, making it one of the earliest episodes of the series. Although the writers were still figuring out these characters, they decided to test the one relationship everyone already loved, right from the start. Bold move? Absolutely. Risky? You have no idea. The episode opens with SpongeBob and Patrick doing what they do best, annoying Squidward while having the time of their lives. They're playing a game, blowing bubbles, laughing like maniacs. The usual classic stuff. Meanwhile, Squidward's trying to enjoy a peaceful afternoon in his garden, and their noise is driving him absolutely insane. Now, here's where things get diabolical. Squidward, being the petty genius he is, doesn't just tell them to quiet down. No. He decides to ruin their friendship entirely by blowing his own bubbles that interfere with their game. And it works. It works so well that SpongeBob and Patrick immediately turn on each other. We're talking about a friendship-ending argument that escalates in seconds. One moment they're best friends, the next they're in a full-blown feud. The bubble incident leads to them arguing with each other, and suddenly they're not speaking. Over bubbles. Bubbles! But Squidward's not done. Oh no. This man sees an opportunity and takes it. He separately befriends both SpongeBob and Patrick, playing them against each other like some kind of twisted puppet master. He invites SpongeBob over for dinner and makes it the fanciest, most sophisticated evening ever. Then he does the same with Patrick, creating this weird competition between them. All of this madness would reach its peak at the birthday party scene. Both SpongeBob and Patrick throw Squidward birthday parties on the same night, trying to outdo each other to win his friendship. They're literally next door to each other, formerly best friends, now bitter rivals, both desperately seeking Squidward's approval. The same Squidward who hated them since day one. Let that sink in for a second. Squidward, the most miserable character in Bikini Bottom, who wants nothing more than for these two to leave him alone, suddenly has both of them fighting over his friendship. While it is kind of funny, it's also kind of heartbreaking watching SpongeBob and Patrick ignore each other completely. The emotional weight of this episode comes from seeing just how easily their friendship was manipulated. These are two characters who genuinely love each other, but one bad day and some outside interference nearly ended everything. They're so focused on being mad at each other that they can't see that they're being played. Then comes the resolution, and it's perfect in its simplicity. SpongeBob and Patrick both end up drowning, because of course they do. This is SpongeBob. And in that moment of crisis, all the petty nonsense disappears. They save each other instinctively, without thinking, because that's what best friends do. When it really matters, when lives are on the line, they don't hesitate. And here's the kicker. They immediately forget why they were even fighting. The reconciliation isn't some big dramatic moment with apologies and tears. They just move on. Because their friendship is more important than whatever stupid reason they had for being mad. That's actually profound for a kid's show. So, why did this episode work? Well, it works because it takes a real-world concept, how friendships can be tested by outside forces and petty disagreements, and wraps it in SpongeBob's signature absurdist humor. The themes here are surprisingly mature. Manipulation, jealousy, the fragility of friendships, and ultimately the strength of true friendship. Squidward serves as the perfect antagonist because his motivations are so relatable. Who hasn't had annoying neighbors or people in their life they'd love to be rid of? His plan to turn SpongeBob and Patrick against each other is pure evil genius, but it's also kind of understandable. He's not trying to hurt them for the sake of being cruel, he just wants some peace and quiet. But the episode doesn't let him win. Sure, he successfully drives a wedge between them temporarily, but the moment SpongeBob and Patrick reconcile, Squidward's back to square one. Two annoying neighbors who are now even closer than before. It's poetic justice, really. His plan backfired spectacularly because he underestimated how deep their bond truly runs. The writers understood something crucial. You can only appreciate how strong a relationship is by testing it. Anyone can be friends when everything's going great, but a friendship that survives manipulation, jealousy, near-death experiences, and complete stupidity, that's a friendship worth celebrating. What's brilliant is how the episode handles Squidward's manipulation. We see him being deliberately two-faced, saying one thing to SpongeBob and another to Patrick, creating drama where none existed before. It's a surprisingly sophisticated portrayal of how toxic people operate in real relationships. Kids watching this might not catch all the nuances, but adults definitely notice how realistic this dynamic is. Here's the thing. Naughty Nautical Neighbors set a template that SpongeBob would revisit multiple times throughout its run. The show clearly understood that audiences love seeing SpongeBob and Patrick's friendship tested, because they kept doing it. Take New Leaf from Season 4, where we see another conflict arise between them, or the Battle of Bikini Bottom from Season 5, where SpongeBob and Patrick have an epic rivalry over cleanliness versus filthiness. These episodes work because they follow the same formula. Establish the friendship, create conflict, escalate the absurdity, resolve with a reminder of their unbreakable bond. But none of these later episodes quite capture the raw emotional impact of that first friendship fight. Maybe it's because Naughty Nautical Neighbors came so early in the series, when we were still getting to know these characters. Or maybe it's because Squidward's manipulation felt more calculated and cruel than the silly disagreements that fueled later episodes. What's interesting is that even in recent seasons, the show continues to mine this dynamic. Episodes showing SpongeBob and Patrick working together, fighting, then reconciling remain popular because audiences are invested in their relationship. We watch them grow together for over 2 decades now. Their friendship is as iconic as the show itself. The pattern these episodes follow reveals something important about the show's philosophy. Friendship isn't about never fighting or disagreeing. It's about always finding your way back to each other. SpongeBob and Patrick can have the dumbest arguments imaginable, can be manipulated by outside forces, can even briefly hate each other. But they always reconnect because their bond transcends whatever temporary nonsense gets in the way. Looking back at Naughty Nautical Neighbors, it's amazing how much depth exists in what's essentially a silly cartoon about sea creatures. This episode could have been just another funny story, but instead it gives us something meaningful. Proof that SpongeBob and Patrick's friendship is literally unbreakable. They fought over bubbles. They tried to kill each other. They completely ignored each other for an entire evening. They competed for the approval of someone who despises them both. And at the end of it all, they saved each other's lives without hesitation and forgot they were ever angry. That's the kind of friendship we all want, isn't it? The kind that survives our worst moments, our stupidest decisions, and even our genuine anger at each other. SpongeBob and Patrick show us that true friendship doesn't mean never fighting. It means always coming back together. This episode, way back in Season 1, established something crucial for the entire series. No matter what happens, no matter who tries to tear them apart, SpongeBob and Patrick will always be best friends. It's not just a character trait, it's a fundamental law of their universe. So what's your take? Do you remember watching this episode as a kid and feeling worried they wouldn't make up? If you remember watching this as a kid, tell me, did it weird you out too? And if you enjoyed this deep dive into early SpongeBob, make sure to hit that subscribe button because we've got plenty more nostalgic cartoon analysis coming your way.